When I heard those words, my heart sank. I have a new girlfriend, and I'm going to live with her. That means I'm divorcing you, and you'll need to go live with your parents. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. What do you mean? I stammered. I don't need you anymore. You can go live with my parents if you feel like being a housekeeper, but I'm done. My name is Serafina, and I'm a 34-year-old office worker. My life has mostly revolved around my career. After I graduated from college, I started working at a major company, and for 12 years, I dedicated myself to my job. I gained promotions, earned new qualifications, and worked my way up the corporate ladder. Now, I hold the position of department manager at a young age. I've been lucky to have a supportive boss and a great team of motivated, talented people working under me. But while my professional life was thriving, my personal life was a different story. I had only had one serious boyfriend back when I was a student, but after that, relationships took a backseat to my career. A close friend of mine noticed that I wasn't really dating and decided to set me up. She hosted a dinner party where I met Colton. He had a warm smile, seemed easygoing, and we clicked almost immediately. He was my age, which meant we had a lot in common. Our conversations were always fun, and we quickly became friends, exchanging numbers and hanging out more often. Eventually, Colton told me he had feelings for me, and we started dating. It wasn't long before we realized we were great together, and soon after, he proposed. I was over the moon. Marrying the man I loved seemed like a dream come true. After the engagement, we went to meet his parents. His family was kind and welcoming from the start. "Serafina, it's so wonderful to meet you," his mother said, teary-eyed. "I can't believe my son brought home such a lovely woman." I was a bit shy at all the compliments, but Colton's mom was warm and easy to talk to, just like him. "Mom, Dad, stop it. You're embarrassing her." Colton laughed, though there was pride in his voice. "Oh, hush. We're just being honest," his father chimed in. "It's rare to meet someone so wonderful." I was relieved. Many of my friends had shared horror stories about disapproving in-laws, but Colton's parents were completely different. They even praised my career. "Serafina works for a big company, you know," Colton told them, and they seemed genuinely impressed. "That's fantastic," his father exclaimed. "It's great to see a hardworking woman like you. Are you planning to keep working after the wedding?" I nodded, explaining that I had no plans to quit my job. They were supportive of that too, which reassured me even more. After that meeting, we got married, and I was filled with excitement. My heart was full, and I couldn't wait to start this new chapter of life with Colton. After the wedding, Colton moved into my apartment, and our life as newlyweds began. I felt so happy and blessed to be sharing my life with the man I loved. We had a comfortable routine. I looked forward to coming home to him after work. For 6 months, things were perfect. Then one evening, Colton approached me with a serious expression. "I need to talk to you about something," he said. "Sure, what is it?" I asked, curious but slightly anxious. "I've been thinking, would you be okay with moving in with my parents?" he asked. I was taken aback. "What do you mean, living with your parents?" "Well, they're getting older, and I'm starting to worry about them. It would make me feel better if we could all live together." I understood where he was coming from. My own parents were around the same age, but my brother and his family were already living with them, so I didn't have to worry about their care. Colton, on the other hand, was an only child. I could see why he was concerned. "So, we'd be living with your parents?" I asked, seeking clarity. "Yes," he said, "but I was thinking of renovating their house. We could turn it into a two-family home." "A two-family home?" "Yeah," he explained. "It would be much more affordable than buying a new house. That way, we'd still have our privacy, but we'd also be nearby to help them when they need it." I thought about it for a moment. The idea did make sense. Colton's parents were kind people, and if the house was set up to give us our own space, it wouldn't be so bad. I decided it was worth considering. Okay, I agreed. That could work. Colton's face lit up with happiness. "Thank you so much. My parents will be thrilled." Not long after, we invited his parents over to discuss the plans, and they were incredibly grateful. They were excited about the renovation and couldn't stop thanking me for agreeing. I felt good about the decision. It seemed like everything was falling into place. But then, during one of our discussions about the renovation, Colton dropped a bombshell. Actually, I need to ask you for a favor, he said, looking hesitant. Sure, what is it? Could you pay for the renovations? I was shocked. What? You mean the whole cost? He nodded. Yes, the full amount. Why? I asked, confused. Colton looked down, clearly uncomfortable. We're in debt, quite a bit of debt, actually. My heart sank. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How much debt? About $300,000, he confessed. I stared at him in disbelief. I had no idea they were in such a huge financial hole. Neither Colton nor his parents had ever mentioned this before. Not while we were dating, not when we got married. I was completely taken aback when I found out how much money my in-laws owed. Without thinking, I shouted in disbelief. How did it get this bad? I asked, stunned by the huge debt. My husband sighed, looking ashamed. At first, it wasn't that much, but it kept growing. We tried paying it off, but it just got worse. My parents are already living off their pensions, and I don't make enough to help. The debt has spiraled out of control. I couldn't hide my shock. I had no idea about the financial burden my in-laws were carrying, and it left me speechless. So, you're asking me to help pay off their debt? I asked, trying to process everything. They can't afford it anymore, and my salary is too low, he admitted. But don't worry, the house renovation is still a priority, and we can go ahead as planned. I stared at him in disbelief. You want me to cover the renovation and pay off your parents' debt? That's more than $250,000. My head was spinning from the overwhelming request. I know it's a lot to ask, Colton said, his eyes pleading, but I love you, and I want to take care of you and my parents. I'm sorry I'm asking for so much, but if you really love me, could you help? I'll repay you little by little, I promise. I felt cornered and distressed. I knew my husband loved me, and I wanted to support him, but this was a huge commitment. Yet, blinded by my love and trusting his promises, I finally agreed. Okay, I'll help, I said, though part of me wasn't sure if this was the right decision. Colton's face lit up with relief. Thank you so much. He shook my hand enthusiastically, almost as if I had just saved his life. Later, he told his parents about my decision, and they came over to thank me. His mother was so emotional, she even cried tears of joy. I don't know how to thank you, she said. You've saved us from such a burden. I felt obligated to help them and was determined to do my best. Although I had some savings, I was hesitant to use all of it at once. I decided to put $60,000 from my savings toward their debt and arranged to pay the rest in installments. My in-laws agreed to the plan and were grateful for whatever I could manage. Why don't we set it up so that I can transfer the money directly to the repayment account? I suggested, concerned about the complexity of transferring large sums to my in-laws' personal account first. We're not good with managing money, Colton admitted. It might be safer if you handle it directly. It made sense to me. The last thing I wanted was for the money to get lost in the process or delayed, so I agreed. With everything settled, my in-laws looked visibly relieved. Now we don't have to worry about the debt collectors knocking on our door every month, Colton's dad said with a sigh of relief. You should thank Serafina properly, Colton reminded them. We've already thanked her so much, his mother replied. We can't say it enough. We're so lucky to have her. Although I was happy to see my in-laws relieved, I couldn't shake the slight discomfort growing inside me. The way they praised me, I started to feel more like a bank than a family member. But I pushed those thoughts aside, telling myself that I was helping the people I loved. With the payments underway, we began the renovations, and soon our two-family home was complete. It was beautiful, spacious, and provided the privacy we needed while keeping Colton's parents close by. They were thrilled with the new house, and Colton was beaming with pride. I, too, enjoyed the changes, especially the upgraded kitchen that made cooking so much easier. Plus, living closer to work meant my commute was shorter, giving me extra time each day. However, something began to bother me. Despite his earlier promises, Colton didn't contribute a single cent toward paying off the debt. Every time I brought it up, he would dodge the topic, saying his salary wasn't enough. When I asked him to show me his pay stubs, he refused, making me even more suspicious. For the next year, I worked hard to pay off as much of the debt as possible, handling the financial burden almost entirely on my own. One day, my in-laws asked how much I had left to repay. It's been a year now, right? You must have made a good dent in it. Yes, I replied. I've managed to pay back about $60,000 so far. There's roughly $180,000 left. Their eyes widened in surprise. You've paid that much already? Colton's mother asked, clearly impressed. That's incredible, Serafina. At this rate, you'll have the whole thing paid off in no time. I smiled, though part of me felt uneasy. I was glad my hard work was paying off, but the weight of the responsibility felt heavier with each passing month. Still, seeing how happy my in-laws were gave me a sense of satisfaction. It was exhausting, but I was willing to do whatever it took to support Colton and his family. Then one evening, something unexpected happened. I was supposed to work late that night, so I had told Colton not to wait up for me. But as luck would have it, the workload was lighter than expected, and my team finished early. Happy with the extra free time, I decided to surprise Colton by coming home earlier than planned. What I didn't expect was the surprise that was waiting for me. I had planned to surprise my husband with dinner that evening, but as soon as I opened the front door, I saw my in-law's shoes. I paused, thinking, oh, my mother-in-law and father-in-law must be here. I figured they had stopped by for something, so I walked toward the living room. That's when I overheard them talking with my husband. You really hit the jackpot marrying her, didn't you, Colton? His mother's voice rang out. Colton responded with a chuckle. Yeah, I can't believe I managed to get a woman with that kind of money. When I first found out she worked for a big company, I knew I had to play it smart and win her over. His mother laughed softly. Well, you did a great job. You should be grateful, Colton. Oh, come on, Mom. Don't act like you're innocent in all this. You helped create some of that debt, too. His father chimed in. Don't forget about your gambling habit. How much have you lost betting on horse races? I've hit the jackpot a few times. Colton defended himself. There were moments when we were actually in the black. His father scoffed. How can you say that when you still owe $300,000? They all laughed, clearly unbothered by the massive debt they had accumulated. Colton added, well, we're on the road to getting rid of it now. Thanks to her, we've already paid a good chunk. Plus, she even remodeled our house. I really scored the perfect wife. My heart dropped as I heard my husband say, once the debt's fully paid off, I'm going to get rid of her. The three of them burst out laughing. I stood frozen at the door, unable to process what I had just heard. The betrayal hit me like a ton of bricks. After taking a few moments to calm myself down, I slammed the front door loudly and called out, I'm home, pretending I hadn't overheard a thing. I walked into the living room, forcing a smile. My in-laws and Colton greeted me with their usual fake grins. Oh, Serafina, welcome home. You've worked so hard today, my mother-in-law said sweetly. Well, we'll leave you two alone. Let's have dinner together again soon, they said, heading back to their section of the house. Their smiles terrified me now. I could barely hold back the disgust I felt, especially looking at Colton, who was pretending to be the perfect husband. I couldn't help but think, what have I been doing? Working myself to the bone to pay off their debts, while they mock me behind my back? Colton looked at me and asked, didn't you say you'd be working late tonight? Yeah, but things went faster than expected, so I thought I'd come home to cook dinner on time, I replied as calmly as I could. Colton didn't seem to suspect anything, but inside, I was fuming. I kept up the facade until after dinner, then retreated to my room, where I cried uncontrollably. I couldn't believe what I had heard. My heart shattered, but that sadness quickly turned into resolve. From that night forward, I moved quickly. I began preparing for a divorce and making plans for my life after I left him. I played the part of the happy wife, pretending nothing had changed, all while setting my plans into motion. I was biding my time, waiting for the right moment to strike. 3 months later, I approached Colton and told him, guess what? I've finished paying off your parents' debt. His eyes widened in surprise.
What?
You paid off the entire $300,000 already? Wasn't it supposed to take 3 years? Well, I explained, I've been saving for quite a while, so I had more than enough to pay it off. I was just cautious about using all my savings at once. Colton's eyes sparkled with excitement, but he tried to hide it. Wow, Serafina, thank you. My parents are going to be so thrilled. He glanced down at the bank book I showed him, clearly impressed. You really did it, $180,000 all at once. I watched as he pretended to be overcome with emotion, wiping fake tears from his face. Thank you so much, he said, his voice trembling with fake gratitude. Soon after, my in-laws came by to thank me as well. We can't thank you enough, Serafina. You're like a blessing from above, his mother said, acting as though I had saved them from ruin. If I had known the truth, I might have been moved by their words. But I knew what they were really like, and my feelings were far from kindness. I was playing my part perfectly, waiting for the moment to unveil my plan. A few days later, Colton came to me with a serious expression.
Serafina, we need to talk, he said.
I acted as though I had no idea what was coming. Sure, what's wrong? I have something to confess, he began, looking troubled. I've met someone new, and I'm going to live with her. I want a divorce. Feigning shock, I gasped, What? What are you talking about? I'm moving on, he said bluntly. I don't need you anymore. You can go live with my parents if you want. You're no longer part of my life. I was stunned by how easily he discarded me, but I played along, pretending to be confused. I don't understand, I said softly. You're just not getting it, are you? I'm done with you. I don't need you to be my wife anymore, but if you want to stay, you can live here as the housekeeper or pay the bills. He smirked. Just then, his parents walked in, and his father grinned. So, you finally told her, huh? Colton nodded, clearly enjoying the moment. Yeah, I told her everything. His mother chimed in. Well, if you're willing to do the chores, you can stay here. Of course, you'll still have to pay rent. The three of them laughed, as though my life was some joke to them. But instead of crumbling, I looked at them with a cold, determined gaze. Actually, I said, all of you need to leave. Their laughter faded, and they stared at me in disbelief. What are you talking about? When I calmly told them that I could easily pay for the renovation myself and reminded them that the house was now in my name, I saw the color drain from their faces. They were speechless as they realized the truth. Because the title was in my name, I had full control. I could decide who lived here and who didn't. My in-laws went pale as they finally remembered that crucial detail. I'm sorry, but you won't be living here anymore, I said coldly. Once we get divorced, you'll all be strangers to me. The reality of the situation hit them like a ton of bricks, but my husband, not wanting to back down, shot back, but you took over our debt and paid it off. You're the one losing money here. If we had no debt, we could have gotten a new place to live. His arrogance infuriated me, but I kept my composure. Actually, that's not quite true, I replied. What do you mean? My husband asked, confused. I saw the money missing from your bank account. I explained that was just money I moved to a separate account. The $180,000 debt is still there. The debt collectors haven't come around recently because I've been paying large chunks over time, but the remaining balance is still due. My husband and in-laws were dumbfounded. Their plan had backfired, and they now had to face the reality of paying off the remaining debt themselves. Then I hit them with the final blow. Colton, I said, turning to my husband, since you confessed to having an affair, I'll be filing for divorce and demanding alimony. I'll also be charging your mistress for her role in this. His face went white. Serafina, please don't do that. She only stayed with me because I had a house and money. If I get hit with alimony, she'll leave me. I stared at him coldly. I don't care. That's your problem now. He panicked, and my in-laws were just as desperate. They begged me to reconsider, but I had no more sympathy left for any of them. I'm done with all of you, I said firmly. I've already put this house on the market, and my lawyer will be in touch about the $60,000 I paid on your behalf. My in-laws froze in place, realizing they had lost everything. I followed through with my plan, filing for divorce and demanding alimony from both my husband and his mistress. I also demanded $60,000 from my in-laws to recover the money I had paid for them. In the end, the house sold for around $200,000, which worked out better than I expected. It was in a good location, and a family looking for a duplex snapped it up quickly. After paying off the remaining $320,000, $120,000 of debt, and $200,000 for the renovation, I walked away with $80,000 in profit. On top of that, I received alimony from both my ex-husband and his affair partner, putting me in a strong financial position. And to add to the victory, I was able to get a small settlement of $60,000 from my ex-in-laws, who were left in debt and without a home. The tables had turned completely, and I came out on top. Reflecting on it all, I realized that I was the biggest winner in this situation. After being deceived and mistreated by people I trusted, I fought back and regained control of my life. In a way, it was justice for the damage they caused me, both emotionally and financially. They had tried to exploit me, but in the end, it was they who lost everything. The truth is, I had been preparing for this outcome all along. I had saved money over the years, made smart investments, and built up a safety net for myself. My assets had grown significantly, and I had even received a raise at work. All of this gave me the confidence to take such drastic steps, knowing I could land on my feet. Now, my former in-laws are back where they started, buried in debt, without a home to call their own. Honestly, I think they deserved every bit of it. People who are willing to lie, cheat, and manipulate others for their own gain deserve to face the consequences of their actions. As for me, I've learned a lot from this experience. I'll be more careful about who I trust in the future, and I'll continue to save and invest to secure a comfortable and happy life for myself. I want to spend my years making memories with people who genuinely care about me, not users who only see me as a source of money. What did you think of this story? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this. See you in the next video.